Pada Ramadan tahun ini, masyarakat di seluruh dunia, termasuk warga Amerika dan Indonesia, sedang bekerja, belajar dan beribadah dari rumah. Meskipun kita berjauhan secara fisik, semangat kita tetap bersama dalam menjadikan bulan suci Ramadan sebagai momen untuk refleksi diri dan peduli dengan sesama. Saya Heather Variava, Kuasa Usaha Interim Kedubes AS, mengucapkan selamat menunaikan ibadah puasa.
Hi everyone, welcome to America TV. My name is Maya. I'm one of the e-guides at America, and we welcome our audience members joining us online. We truly hope that you are doing well and staying safe amidst this outbreak. For those of you who are first-timers here at America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center. Our mission is to provide a space for young generations of Indonesia to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so you guys can enjoy our program from the comfort of your own home and help flatten the curve of COVID-19. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment box below, and our panelists will answer them later in the seminar. And for those of you guys who are joining us through Zoom, there are a couple of features that you guys can use to actively participate in the seminar. You guys can use the Q&A box section to drop your questions, and also you can use the chat box section to simply just to say hi to the other participants and also the panelists as well. But don't forget to use these features wisely, right? Cool. Now, today we are going to talk about your 5 steps to study in the United States. But before we begin, let's break the ice with a little game. I have a question for our social media quiz today. The question is, true or false, Cornell University is suspending the SAT testing requirements for 2021 applicants. Get it? All right, I repeat to you one more time. True or false, Cornell University is suspending the SAT testing requirements for 2021 applicants. You guys can participate this quiz through our Facebook comment, and stay tuned till the end of this program to find out who got the correct answer. And one more thing, guys, please don't hesitate to take a selfie and share your experience joining this session on Instagram and tag us at AT America. Now, without further ado, please welcome our beautiful advisors, Kafina Halatas. Hi, Kafina.
Hi, Maya. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Kafina?
Pretty good. Thank you.
All right, Kafina, take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in. Welcome to America TV. If this is your first time, if you've been here before, this is your maybe second, third, fourth, fifth time, welcome back. My name is Vina. I'm one of the advisors for EducationUSA based in America in Pacific Place, Jakarta. But like what Maya said, we are going virtual and we're very excited. I'm still be able to give this session to you. I'm still excited to do this from home since we have to stay at home, and please do stay at home if you can. And very excited still be able to get to see you, which if you are in Zoom right now, please, you are welcome to turn your camera on, your video on. And let's see, we are going to talk about the 5 steps to U.S. study. But before that, I would like to give you like a little bit of like a glimpse of like what we've been doing so far. So again, we are going virtual now, but very excited that we are still be able to share this information to you, and let alone we're actually available via Zoom every day, just like when we are doing it in America. This is similar with Zoom. We are available every day from 1 until 9 p.m. Santika and I, you are standing by to basically take your questions. So in fact, we already have a number of advisees, and very excited. They are planning to apply for fall 2021. So this is like the perfect timing for you guys to also start. So if you have never been doing an advising with us before, maybe you're still kind of like malu-malu, you know what I mean? Like you are not sure like how to start with the Zoom session. Don't worry, Santika and I were pretty like nice person, and we're very always excited to actually meet with new advisees. So if you're kind of like still thinking, I hope that by tonight you are going to make an appointment with us, and then we can actually have some chat tomorrow or the other days. I promise you tonight the information will be informative. Again, I'm not going to use any PowerPoint. To be completely honest with you, I'm afraid if I put up like a slides, it will bore a lot of you guys. Yes, I want you to take a lot of new information tonight with the sessions, but then again, I don't want to make it kind of like a class, if you know what I mean. So I want to make it this as lively as possible. Feel free to ask as many questions as possible as well. Santika and the whole EduAmerica team is standing by on the chat box. So feel free to type in some of your questions while I give the discussion presentation without the PowerPoint slides, of course. But then also we welcome you guys to verbally talking to us by turning your video on in Zoom, and then ask directly the questions to Santika or I. I would also like to say hi to everyone who's watching us, not via Zoom, but on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are now actually on Instagram Live as well. Very excited. Stay there if you want. You can ask some questions still in the comment box. But of course, if you want to join us here in Zoom, come right here. And I'm actually just like killing some times here for a while, because I see that some of you probably still enjoying the dinner. For those of you who just break their fast, happy breakfasting, happy iftar. But yeah, I'm going to, you know what? Let's get yourself relaxed. Maybe grab a coffee or tea or something like that. And again, I would like to urge you to turn your camera on, but you don't have to. Yeah, before we actually just like start talking about the 5 steps to US study, I'm going to introduce my colleague here. We have Santika in the house, and Santika will be basically talking about like what EducationUSA is. If this is your first time, maybe you're wondering who we are, the kind of services that we do. And so yeah, hi Santika, how are you doing?
Hi Fina, I'm doing good, thank you.
All right, so if you want to start telling us who we are.
Yeah, so basically, if you are new to our EducationUSA events, whether it's in EduAmerica or online, I want to let you know that EducationUSA is your trusted source if you want to plan your study to US. Because we are the US Department of State, we network over 400 international student advising center in more than 170 countries. And in Indonesia alone, we have 8 centers in total of 10 advisors in Indonesia. So I'm going to list down our centers and our advisors just in case you are interested to refer anyone who's in the city or nearby to ask about how do they, get started to plan their study to US. And everything is free of charge, right? All right, so I'm starting from Jakarta. We have 2 centers in Jakarta. One in the U.S. Embassy Jakarta, we have David and Iqbal there. And another one in Jakarta is, of course, in EduAmerica, where we are located. Fina and me are located. We are in the Pacific Place Mall in South Jakarta. So that's where Fina and me usually on standby from 1 until 9 p.m. And now that we have to move for digital for temporary, you can find us in Zoom meeting, and we will be providing the Zoom meeting ID in the chat room. And the next one, we will move to Surabaya. We have 2 centers in Surabaya, one in U.S. Consulate General. We have Husky there. And the next one is Universitas Airlangga, UNAIR. We have Ambar there. And then the next one in Medan. It's in U.S. Consulate Medan. We have Jeffrey there. And then next we move to Malang. We have the center in Universitas Muhammadiyah. We have Zaki there. And Makassar we have Cundani in Universitas Fajar. And last but not least, in Banda Aceh, we are located in Universitas Islam Negeri, UIN Araniri. We have Lilis there. So those are the 8 centers and 10 advisors. We really encourage you to reach us out. You can try to find us in educationusa.state.gov if you cannot find our email. And again, I really encourage all of you to use the chat box and turn on your video. But I understand maybe now you're having your dinner, so you can turn it on later and then take notes. And if you have question, you can put it in the chat box, and Fina and me will try to answer it later on in the Q&A session. All right, and then I forgot to tell you that we actually guide every student who came to us, whether you want to take bachelor, master, or PhD degree in United States. We have the 5 steps. And that 5 steps will be explained today by Fina because that's our topic today. And yeah, that's from me, and I'll give it back to Fina.
Thank you so much, Santika. All right, guys, so let's begin. Basically, what we're going to talk tonight is the 5 steps to U.S. studies. So with Education USA, basically we start with. So I'm going to just going to mention what are the steps are, and then we're going to discuss each step and what you can do, the kind of services that we provide, and all that. Right. So there are 5 steps. So we start with step 1 is research your options. Step 2 is finance your studies. Step 3 is completing your application. Step 4 is applying for U.S. student visa after you get accepted, of course. And then step 5 is pre-departure orientation. So if you can see here, we basically assisting everyone every step of the way, from the very basic knowledge about, like, like maybe you guys are wondering about like the education, the U.S. Education system, all the way until you're about to depart to the U.S. All right. So what I'm going to talk tonight is I will focus so much on step 1, 2, and 3. Step 4. Yes, if we get some questions about, if you want to know more a little bit about like visa process, I will be able to do that as well. But I want to kind of like focus on step 1 through 3, which is, I feel like it's very important, right? So step 1 is research your options. So what does that mean? So I would like to start by mentioning that a number of advisees, or not yet advisees, so there are new people kind of like contacting us. I would receive a number of emails before asking, so Fina, like, I heard about Education USA, I heard about you guys from my friends, from my colleagues. I would like to do one-on-one advising, but not sure which level of knowledge should I be in, or the type of things that I need to prepare before coming in to America, or like, doing a one-on-one advising. And then I would say basically we actually have a lot of people coming into America. Those who are, before we were going digital, there are those who just, like, hang out in the Pacific place, and then they kind of like just passing by at America, and they kind of like, oh, I heard about Education USA in there, and then they kind of like, just stopping by and then want to know more about like what is Education USA, why should I study in the US, and all that. So there are actually a variety of people with like different levels when they start coming into come to us. So you don't have to worry whether or not you are not sure the kind of major that you want to do, or maybe you're just still thinking, why should I study in the US? Why shouldn't I go to other countries? Like, why the US? And you want to know more about it. Then let's have a chat. That's what the step 1 is all about, right? So it's those who are still in the very early stage of the wanting to know about like studying in the US. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to convince you to, everything that you need to know about like studying in the US. And once you are pretty much convinced, once you are in the position that, you know what, I think I want to give it a try, or maybe you're already in a position where I'm applying to the US, but I just don't know where to start. So once you are already in that position, we are moving on still in the step 1, but so there are so many things that we're going to do in step 1, right? So once you are convinced that you're going to study in the US, or you already know that you're going to study in the US, but you're not sure where to start, we are going to basically see your overall profile. So what does that mean? So I am going to ask you a number of questions, but then don't worry. The thing is, a lot of people kind of like thought when you do an advising with us, it's kind of like just go straight to the business. You know what I mean? Like just talk about, okay, I want to study in the US and this is the universities. How do I go about it? But for me personally, I would like to actually like literally want to know more about you. So I will might ask you questions about why do you want to study in the US? Are you sure about the major? Like how sure are you with the majors that you're going to do? So apart from me trying to understand you better, that also will be easier for us to move to the next step, which is, like step 3, which is completing your application. So the first thing that I would like to ask new advisees is, like, how are you in your English? You don't have to already take TOEFL or IELTS before coming into Education USA, because as we already know that taking that test, the official one, it's not it costs money, right? So you don't have to like already have that test, but I just want to like ask you, how are you in your English? Even though you have not taken any like tests whatsoever, are you confident enough to basically, do everything in English, like writing, speaking, listening, and all that? And we can, like do the whole session in English for that matter. But it doesn't always have like that. It doesn't have to be like that. We can also like speak in Bahasa for sure. But the reason why I'm asking that questions in a very early stage is because we are like, once you're confident in your English, we are going to go into the English territory, right? Like, because the application process itself is everything going to be in English, which is what I'm going to talk about in step 3, completing your application, right? So for example, like the TOEFL or IELTS, that's like the very basic step. The university will definitely ask for that. And then of course we get the GRE or GMAT. Not everybody will have to take that task. For example, if you want to do LLM or like law, of course you don't have to take GRE or GMAT, but we can, let's assume that GRE and GMAT are the 2 tasks where you're going to be required to take, right? And of course, that's like everything in English. And then we also have essay, obviously also in English. You will definitely require to be able to write a good story and in English. And then we also have resume or CV. So again, like we're going to go into the English territory. So that's like the first question that I usually ask. And then if you feel like you're still not confident enough in your English, and then I would say, well, give some time, right? So maybe you want to take like 6 months to prepare your English, which in America, hopefully we're going to have it again. But as some of you may already know, we have full prep course on TOEFL and GRE, and of course everything is free of charge. Hopefully we're going to have it again in the near future. But something like, yeah, if you feel like you need to improve your English first, then give it some time. You don't have to like apply like right away, right? The universities are not going anywhere. So unless for whatever reasons you have like a timeline that you're trying to achieve. So that's that. So the first one is the English, and then the second one is, I want to know like, what do you want to study? I know it sounds very basic, but then it's very, very important as well, especially if you want to study master's and PhD. There are a number of people who would kind of like still trying to weighing between like 2 different majors, and in that case it's going to be very challenging for us to move on to the next steps, because especially if the majors are like so different. For example, maybe you did your bachelor's degree in sociology, and then now you want to do masters and then you're still trying to figure out, should I do sociology as well, or maybe I'm actually also thinking MBA. So as you may see, those are like two different, like complete different programs, and it's going to be very hard for us to actually move forward, because when we are looking for the universities, it's not just like the name of the campus, it's not just like the general ranking that we usually see online, but it's more like looking for the right program, not just like looking at the universities, but the right program. So that's that, right? And so I'm going to ask you, if you already know that, okay, Fina, I'm gonna study TOEFL or IELTS. So we want to balance the whole score by having a really good score in your math, right? And so that's usually what I ask. I'm not going to ask that question if you want to study law or some other major. So for example, like now a lot of universities in the US, a lot of for specific programs, a number of universities start to no longer require GRE. So for example, I see that more and more master's degree program in, for example, education field like TESOL or international education and all that. I a lot of universities, they no longer asking for GRE. And another good news is with the current situation, and the fact that applications for 2021 will be opened this year, a lot of universities actually waive the GRE. So isn't it great, right? Because I know that GRE, a lot of people, when it comes to applying to the US, we are all concerned about like this GRE and GMAT, but it doesn't have to be. There are actually a number of our advisees who are hunting for campuses that do not require GRE, and that's totally normal. That's totally normal. GRE is not for everybody. Although yes, we can still assume that uh, the majority of programs in the US will still require the GRE. So that's actually some of the things that I would like to ask you guys: the English, the majors, and math. And then when I stopped there, a lot of people wondering, Fina, how about GPA? I didn't hear you asking about my GPA, because that's actually my main concern. Like, I don't have a good GPA. But no, I'm not gonna ask that question, because the first thing is, do you have control over your GPA, right? If that's something that has happened in the past, just it is what it is. That's going to stay there. I mean, unless you want to retake the whole bachelor's degree, which I'm pretty sure we're not going to do that, right? So I would like to focus instead on something that we have control over. So for example, like, this English things like the TOEFL or the IELTS and the GRE, GMAT, something that even though you're not good at math, but that's definitely something that you can always improve, right? And then the essay, of course, it's similar. That's something that there are going to be like a lot of revisions going on with the essay to make it better every time. So I'm not going to ask you about that. And then another thing is, people ask me about, Fina, how about you're not asking me about my working experience, because I'm actually really concerned about my resume, because it doesn't actually really looks really good. The way I look at it is pretty similar with the GPA situation here, right? Do you have control over what you've done in the past with your working experience? Unless you are planning to study to the US in 2 years or 3 years from now, then yeah, you can actually change your working experience, maybe like, changing your, apply for a new job or stuff like that, adding some new activities, maybe like volunteering and all that. But if you're applying, so if you're coming in, let's say like we're going to have a one-on-one advising session tomorrow, and then you actually want to apply for 2021, and then the first deadline is, let's say, I don't know, first round, which start as early as September this year. How are you going to, and with the current situation even, how are you going to, make your resume even better? So do you have any control over that? If not, let's move on. Let's focus on things that we can actually improve on. Okay, so that's that. And then once I pretty much get to know you, get to see your overall profile, we're going to jump on the step 2, which is finance your studies. Of course, that's equally important, right? Like, it's going to defeat the whole thing if, like you're applying and you pay a lot of times preparing for GRE, for the essay, not knowing how we're going to fund the study. Doesn't mean that you need to fund the study with your own money, because the good news is, especially when it comes to master's degree and PhD, there are actually a good number of funding options out there. When we are talking about government scholarship, of course, some of you might already know we got Fulbright that is coming from the U.S. government, and then we got also LPDP from our government, from the Indonesian government, right? And a lot of people thought those are the only 2 scholarships that are available, but there are actually other options, other funding options. So for example, I would like to urge actually a lot of people who wants to do PhD to really, really consider the US, because not a lot of people know this yet, which I would like to share as often as possible, that when it comes to do a PhD in the US, a lot of universities, a lot of departments, they actually have a lot of funding available. So usually, based on experience of our advisees, in fact, I think we have about 3-4 people, PhD candidate, already get accepted for fall 2020, and all of them didn't get the scholarship from the government. They all get we don't really call it scholarship, but we call it grant from the universities. There are a number of things that the university is asking you to in order to get this kind of grant. Oftentimes is you have to do some teaching, usually teaching in the undergraduate level. Or you can also do like a teaching assistant, TA, or there's another term, we call it GRA, graduate research assistant. So that's something that either the professor or the department offer it to you, just like that. Congratulations, we would like to have you as part of our program, and we're going to give you this amount of money and stuff like that. Or that's also can be something that you will need to apply, right? And then when you get it, usually what they're going to do is they're going to waive your tuition. So you're not going to pay a penny on your tuition. In return, they're going to kind of like almost like a salary, but they don't really call it a salary. They call it a lot of things. They can call it like allowance, or there's another thing, but I forgot what is the term, but so they will pay you. It can be like monthly or even like yearly, but so far what we've heard from our advisees, the grants that they will receive is actually enough, if not more than enough, to cover your monthly expenses, including the apartment, or shared house and all that, transportation, meals. So that's that. It's very common to be like that in the PhD situation here. But is it common for master's degree? Not so much, but we actually have seen some of our advisees who receive that kind of grants as well. We don't have the database on that because and oftentimes the universities did not even mention it on their website. So it's definitely something that you need to kind of like do some kind of personal approach. So this is also a reason. This is something I'm going to talk on step 3 actually. But before I forgot, which I might forget about to tell you this, but something that I really like to tell my advisees is start the introduction, start making a connection with the department. And then a lot of people kind of like not sure if that is really the way. I mean, you don't have to do it, but I really highly recommend people to do it because of this, especially if you're hoping to receive some kind of funding from the universities. Oftentimes, if the professors, you start the conversation with him or her, introduce yourself, maybe tell a little bit about the kind of research, if the program is about research, and then you can ask her or him, something like, I believe that you might also be interested in doing this research with me, and stuff like that. Oftentimes, and when you ask, at the end of the day, when you ask them, hey, is there actually some funding or grants available? Because I'm still looking for one, they might, ask around. And then if they actually have some funding available laying around in their department, they will be able to actually grant it to you. I know it sounds like too good to be true. It sounds like not a lot of people actually know about this. I'm actually planning to actually have this specific sessions on trying to find other funding options apart from the government scholarship, meaning that I would like to invite like incoming students or even current students who are currently studying in the US and they are actually under this type of grant, or even alumni, to basically talk about their experience, how they went about it, how did they go about it until they actually able to get this kind of funding, right? So that's that with step 2, finance your study. So we basically going to put a lot of options when it comes to funding. So maybe we want to put everything there. We want to aim for Fulbright. Why not? We want to aim for LPDP. We want to aim for some possible funding from the universities, right? And then once we kind of like already, aware of some of this funding that are available, then we can actually move on to step 3, which is completing your application. And this is when things are getting serious, right? Because we pretty much already figure out, like, I know what I want to major in. I know that I'm pretty confident with my English. I know the number of universities that I'm going to apply. I know exactly what they are looking for each universities. I'm ready to apply. And that's like what we're going to do in step 3, right? And so step 3 is completing your application. The first thing that we're going to figure out is timeline, because step 1 and step 2 is going to be related, right? Like sometimes, so for example, like with LPDP, if you want to study to the US, the timeline, the deadline to get the LPDP and the deadline for the universities is a bit off. So we actually see, we suggest a number of options. So for example, we actually see a number of our advisees who they are focusing first on getting the LOA. This is, I'm talking about LPDP regular. Because as you may already know, unless they're going to change the regulation this year, but in the past, at least last year, they have 2 different type of applicants, right? The LPDP regular and then the LPDP affirmation, if I'm not mistaken. It's a bit more challenging to get the LPDP regular because they are focusing now to those who are under the category of LPDP affirmation. For example, those who work with the government, those who are coming from specific area in Indonesia, and there's also like LPDP specifically for those who are actually coming from the eastern part of Indonesia. And so what we want to do here, with LPDP regular, they are saying that if you actually get an LOA from a certain number of universities that they put on their list, which is they are pretty much all the highly selective universities, your chance to get in will be a bit closer to get accepted because you are going to be called to the interview right away. So a lot of people actually applying for the universities first, try to get that LOA from this highly selective universities in the US, and then once they get it, they're going to apply for the LPDP, right? The way I recommend people is just to follow whatever timelines that is in front of you. So if you're planning to study in the US, you have this idea that, I want to study in the US, and then this is let's say in November, for example. What is the earliest deadline out there? And then we got Fulbright. Fulbright, their deadline is always on February 15 every year. So then if you are planning to apply for Fulbright, then that's what you're going to prepare, right? But then at the same time, maybe some of your campuses will have their deadlines around, let's say, February, also March, then also apply for the universities, right? So just follow whatever timeline there is, okay? And timeline is very important because, for example, if you want to start studying for fall 2021, there's no better time than starting your application today, like now, right? Actually, I've already mentioned this since January, where I would tell people start in January, although the deadlines is not until the end of this year, or maybe not until early 2021, but really you want to start as early as possible. So timeline is very, very important. Oftentimes we see a lot of people started to panicking coming to Education USA, consulting with myself and Santika, want us to basically review your essay. I always happy to do it. Reading essays is my favorite. But then they have like a really small window until before the deadline. And we figure out that, there's not actually a lot of time to get, like a really good essay. So please, please avoid that, especially also because, like last year, starting in October, November, December, until like early this year, our advising sessions when it comes to essay increased like crazy, to the point where I hate this, but to the point where I have to turn people down, because I would come in on a Sunday, for example, and I start from 1 until 9, and then I would have like about 6-7 people for an essay review. And the thing is, when it comes to essay review, it's not only, it doesn't take like only 15 minutes. It can actually go all the way to like an hour, because I'm not just going to read your essay, make some comments, and then give it back to you. But it's actually more about like we brainstorm it together. So if I say, maybe we can change this, but then we're going to think on, so what are we going to change now that you're actually discussing your plan with me? And a lot of people actually found that really helpful, that I keep asking you a lot of questions when it comes to essay, because a lot of people said that, like when it comes to me writing on my own, like I'm not sure if I should write this or not. And they found it really helpful that there is actually someone, a stranger, practically I'm going to be your stranger, to read your essay and give you like a really honest review, right? So that's that. Timeline is very important. Time management, right? So let's say you're coming to me in, I don't know, like July or August for the first time, and then you're about to start with your application process, and then I would ask, so when is the earliest deadline? And then you would say, oh, the first deadline is February. So then we actually have some, I would consider that's like a really small window. We want to avoid that, but if that's the case, then we want to, like make a really good time management. You want to maybe create, some people I see, they do like they have like an Excel sheet where they, list all the campuses and all that, right? And after we figure out the timeline, knowing that, the earliest deadlines for some of these campuses that we're going to apply, then we actually start digging in to like, the technical aspect of it, which is the things that you're going to have to prepare from yourself, is basically 3 things. We got essay. That's going to be our number 1. That's going to be the top priority, like really top priority. We don't want to mess with that, right? We got essay. We got the GRE or GMAT. If you don't have to take either GRE or GMAT, consider yourself lucky. It's great. So then you don't have to worry about the standardized test, and then we can actually just move on with the essay. And the other one is your resume or CV, right? In fact, actually forgot to mention that in the beginning. Stay tuned on Saturday. I mean, if you actually heard about this event from EducationUSA emails, we already mentioned, I believe you already mentioned about what is going on Saturday, which I can't wait. A session on resume and CV and letters of recommendation is actually one of my favorite topics as well. We're going to have that on a Saturday, also at 7. So if you want to stay tuned on that. Why resume and CV is important? I'm going to give a teaser, but we're going to talk more about it in the event on Saturday. But resume and CV, we clearly have a 2 different style between Indonesia and the US when it comes to resume and CV. So for example, I will be able to give you the sample of the US style of resume and CV. But the one thing that is significantly different is the fact that here in Indonesia, we tend to actually put picture on our resume and CV, and we don't want that, right? We want the resume and CV to look very clean. It's just words, all like it basically just words. I know some people found it like it looks boring, but it is. But I totally understand why the style is like that, because it's easier to like really get to know you quickly. All right, and then we also have the letters of recommendation and some administrative like transcript. Letters of recommendation is not supposed to be your part, because although it's not really the case here in Indonesia, we're going to talk more about that on Saturday. But technically, it's not supposed to be your doing. You're not supposed to be write the letter of recommendation. All you need to do is basically find whom you believe will be the best recommenders, and then we get transcript. It's quite administrative, like it's something that you're going to ask your previous campus or high school if you want to study bachelor's degree, to ask to get like the official copy of the transcript. And then they might be asking, the universities might ask you to do like to provide them with a evaluation credential type of service. That's another thing, another administrative thing. But yeah, the ones that you really want to prepare on your own is basically the essay. Well, TOEFL is number one. TOEFL is very obvious. The TOEFL or the IELTS, and then the essay, and then the GRE or the GMAT, and then the resume. All right. And so I would like to actually just stop right there. I have like some key points here that I want to touch upon, but I would like to check with my colleague Santika here if we have some questions, which I really hope we do have some questions.
So yeah, thank you, Fina. That was very informative, and I'm sure a lot of the participants today have questions after they hear you mention a lot of things about how they start planning and how do they apply, and the financial options is actually not limited to the government's scholarship. And we actually have questions from the participants in Zoom. So I'm gonna go ahead and read. Actually, the two first questions are very similar and connected. So I'm just gonna read them for you. So the highlight is how to get a student visa. So this is step 4, right, Fina? And it's because I have been accepted to a U.S. university, and the attendees or the advisees here is very concerned because the U.S. embassy is currently closed, so they don't know how to proceed with their visa and when it will be opened. For students who are going for fall 2020, and for our pre-departure orientation, will that be online or in at America? Because I'm very excited for this as well, because we have a lot of good news where the students got accepted. So yeah, what do you think about this?
All right, so I believe the questions is from Samantha Johannes.
Yes.
So I assume you already got accepted, which congratulations. And by the way, let us know what universities, what major that you got accepted. We actually have a separate student database for those who already get accepted. And we're going to give you a lot of when there are new updates about the current situation, and of course when we're going to have our annual event of PDO or pre-departure orientation. That's going to be step 5. If you want to be added on our list so that you're not missing out, or maybe you're looking for, hey, do you have any, so for example, you got accepted to campus in New York, and then you want to know if there's anybody who's actually got accepted to New York, will start their study in New York as well. We can definitely start connecting you, especially during the PDO events. So yeah, please either chat privately to Santika to leave your information or your email. We can email you back. But okay, answering your question.
So
yes,
yeah. from Samantha and Sarah, it was the same question. Generally, they both are accepted. So congratulations again. I have chat you. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I give you my email or our center email so you can fill us in the details on, like Fina said, we are going to invite you for sure, right? So are we moving to
Yes.
the next question? Okay, so
Let me talk a little bit about like the
Okay.
current visa situation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, unfortunately, the visa office is still not able to do like the visa process. Unfortunately, also we don't know as to when they are going to open. And I know it's very frustrating, it's very concerning, especially if you guys already get accepted to fall 2020. Again, you're not the only one. In fact, we have like what? We have 49, now adding two more. So we got 51 in our database of people who already get accepted for fall 2020. What is what the plan that a lot of people are going to take with the current situation, because we just simply do not know when the whole pandemic will stop. But to be on the safe side, a lot of our advisees are actually choosing to defer their study to fall 2021. So that's definitely something that you want to start think about. If it's not an option for you, like for whatever reason you need to start your study immediately in fall 2020, you definitely want to check with the campus, because now more and more campuses, they have not decided yet. I think they're still weighed out the whole thing, but a lot of campuses have like start to give some options on start the classes online for fall. And if that is the case, I don't have like the exact answers to this, but I would assume that you won't need a visa for that. So yeah, so at this point, we just don't know when they're going to reopen. And I know I'm so sorry to hear that. I know it's very frustrating. If I were you, I would feel that. But then again, you're not the only one. You're not alone. So please reach out to us. I would like to actually have an offline sessions, inviting all those people who already get accepted, and then let's just have a chat and stuff like that. So if you are interested, please let us know. But so that's to answer your question. We don't know when the visa will be open.
All right, thanks, Fina. So yeah, stay tuned. For now, I can add to what Fina have said is actually getting ready to apply your visa once it's open. So you're ready to just submit your visa application to the U.S. Embassy. And we have next in line is Dani. Dani Ratna. She wants to ask directly, but she won't be turning her video on. So I'm gonna unmute her.
Oh yay!
Okay.
Hi, Dani.
Hello, Mbak Vina. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, guys, I wanted to ask more about the funding situation, moreover from the university. Like based on your experience, like what kind of requirements need to be met in order to get funding from the university? Because as far as I know, is universities don't give a lot of funding options to international students. So based on your experience, like what do we need to do? Thank you.
Good question. Danny, may I ask what major that you want to do?
I'm currently looking to pursue my master's degree in my MBA degree in New York and NYU, but probably for next year or for the following 2022.
Okay, great. All right, thanks so much for the question. So, the type of funding that I mentioned earlier, the one that was being given out by the universities, usually they call it grant. And like what you said, yes, I agree with you that not a lot of these universities, like given a good, a lot of funding in terms of like the scholarship. But with this grant, from the universities, oftentimes it's more it's more on people who wants to do like science or the type of programs where they will do a lot of research or something that their department is actually quite small. Then yes, oftentimes we see a lot of our advisees would be granted from that type of programs. With MBA, however, we don't actually see a lot of that being offered. So for example, like, you mentioned New York, like Columbia or NYU. So far, I have not heard any scholarship provided specifically for an MBA. But for example, if you're looking for Duke University, for example, in North Carolina, then they actually do offer scholarship for the MBA program. Unfortunately, we don't have a database. So I know this based on what I heard from our advisees, and sometimes even our advisees shared with us that there are this funding available. But yeah, when it comes to MBA, it's quite tricky. The option is not there. The probably the last options that people are now start kind of like looking at it is a loan. So there is this one international student loan that is available, but if you ask me personally, I wouldn't really go that route because like how it can cost a lot when it comes to like studying master's degree in the U.S. But that would be like maybe your last options. So when it comes to MBA, at this point, I would actually rely so much on the Fulbright scholarship like LPDP. And Fulbright also, although it's not like a really common thing that I would hear a lot of Fulbright candidates would do MBA. There are, of course, but not like, not like a lot. We heard from the LPDP batch from last year, a lot of our advisees actually got the LPDP and they want to study MBA. Maybe you are maybe familiar that a couple of years ago there is this rumor where LPDP didn't really accept students who wants to study MBA, but I would say that it's not true, because at least now, because we actually see a lot of our advisees get granted the LPDP for MBA. But then yeah, like in terms of like applying, like is there specific requirements? Not so much. It's just like something that's like normally with other majors, and then usually once you get accepted or when you start the conversation with the department, it can be the admissions committee or the professors, then you can actually ask them. So it's more like a personal approach. And then like if they, for example, like, oh yeah, I know this person, like we've been in contact for quite a while, and then they can actually case by case they might give you the funding. But then again, that's unfortunately for MBA, I have not heard that quite often. So yeah.
All right.
But thanks for the question.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny, and thank you, Fina. So we will move on to the next question. And actually, the next question is about law. So Rizky in Zoom asked, what preferred major is necessary for degree for law? So I think Rizky is asking on what degree he needs here in order to take law in United States. So yeah.
All right. I will talk a little bit about law because studying law in the U.S. is quite different than everywhere else in the world. So like how in Indonesia we have S1 hukum, yeah, like law degree for your bachelor's, right? In the U.S. there's no such thing. They don't have like a law degree for bachelor's. So some people call it pre-law, but pre-law is usually like you take any type of major and then you will do your first degree of law after you get your bachelor's degree. So their first law degree is actually equivalent to master's degree, because you have to take bachelor's degree first, right? And that's what they call JD. All right. However, if you already have a law degree for your bachelor's, you are actually going to do LLM. It's not a JD. It's JD is about 3-4 years. LLM is actually technically LLM is above JD, because you're kind of like skipping JD and then go straight to LLM. So yeah, as long as you have a law degree in your bachelor's, you're going to go straight to LLM, where the beauty of it is there is no test whatsoever. A lot of people ask about, how about LSAT, LSAT? Those are tests for people who want to study law, but for those who don't have a law degree in bachelor's. So again, if you already have like a law degree for your bachelor's, you're going to do LLM, which technically you just apply without like any standardized tests except for TOEFL and IELTS. However, before I forgot, when it comes to law degree in the US, your level of English might want to be definitely higher than others who are not doing law. So you need to have like this, what do you call it? Like a law type of English, which is like very like different. So yeah, you need to have like a really strong English if you want to study law. I would say you may want to aim for like 100 on your TOEFL IBT or 7.5. That's quite high. That's like so far above the standard of 79. But it is, when it comes to a master's degree in the US, not just law, actually, for other majors as well, you want to aim for that score, right?
Okay, thank you, Fina. So, Risky, that's your answer. And I'm going to the next question. Actually, Fina already kind of like answered this question from Nadia. She asked about if there is any advisee of ours that took student loan for his or her study in the United States. And Fina already mentioned that it's not like we kind of recommend this, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just real quick about that, because there's this like international, like I want to say it's fairly new. I'm not gonna mention what it's called. Just email us if you want to know. But there's this one international student loan that is kind of like more and more people hear about it. If you ask me if we actually have our advisees enrolled in that type of loans, the answer is no, but we might see it in the near future, because I have one at least, or one or two who are considering it. But what I heard from the previous advisees when I heard about it the first time, they heard that there are a couple of Indonesians already using that loans. But unfortunately, I don't know who they are. So yeah.
Okay. So that's that. So email us if you want to know more about that, because we are unable to provide you with the name. And next question is, it's kind of like $1 million question, Fina, and I know you got this a lot. It's from Devin Ilham. How to make a good personal statement? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love this. I love this question. I love talking about essay. I love reading essay. Let's see if I can actually answer this. In the shorter version. So how to make a good personal statement, or there are actually a lot of terms. The statement of purpose, personal essay, personal statement. The first questions that you really want to ask before you start writing your essay is, what are you trying to do? Like, yes, okay, I want to study corporate law, for example, right? Because I want to focus on corporate when I come back to, as a lawyer. But then why? And then to ask them this type of questions. And this is also another reasons why there are still a lot of people who don't take the essay seriously, because a lot of us thought that, oh, you know what, that's something that I can focus like later. And what is that? It is what they're really looking for. A lot of us, when it comes to essay, we think that it's just a matter of like showing off about yourself in a way that, I'm just gonna like talk about like, I went to like this #1 university in Indonesia with this great GPA, and then look, my work experience is just amazing. I'm going to show off. And that is the kind of essays that actually other countries is asking. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's fair enough, right? Like the universities want to know more about like who you are. But for the US, they don't want to see that. Why? Because they already see it in your resume, right? Think about it. Like your name, a lot of people start with their name. My name is Fina. I'm applying. The reasons why I'm writing this essay is because I'm very interested in applying for this major. For them, it's like very obvious. Like you don't have to mention what you want to study. I already know what you want to study from your application. I don't have to know where you went for your bachelor's degree. I don't have to know what your GPA is, if it's like really that good, because I can see all that in your resume. So what they are looking for is actually a story, more like your plan, your ultimate goal, your final goal after you graduate from this specific program. Like, why do you really want to study in these universities? And we don't want a general answer. We don't want to have like a answer where, for example, we've seen this a lot from MBA applicants, where when I ask, why do you want to study MBA? A lot of the common answers is, well, I want to level up my career. I want to go to, like consulting, and I want to level up my career. But then that's so much about you, right? But then I want to know more about like what the universities wants to hear is like, but like, is there any impact from this program? So yeah, come back to the first question. It's like, what are you trying to help? Who are you trying to help here? Are you trying to help like a number of community in Jakarta? For example, like I have an advisee working on, she wants to study city planning, right? Because she really cares about like smart city in Jakarta. She wants to help the government in achieving like a really good smart city. So then you already have like a good material in the essay, because it's very clear who you're trying to help, not just the people in Jakarta, but the government also, right? So that's that. It's just about story. Yeah, let me stop there because then I won't stop.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting topic, especially for Fina, because she loves reading essays. So who was it again? The one who asked this question? Devin, you can definitely schedule one-on-one advising with Fina once you have your essay draft ready, and Fina or me will be happy to take a look and give you input on what to improve and what we suggest you do and not to do, okay? And the next question we have from Adima. What should I prepare if I want to get bachelor degree in US at 2021? Should I get TOEFL or IELTS? I'm in my senior high school right now. Thank you. So yeah.
Thank you, Adima, for the questions. I know that from the beginning of this session, I am basically talking more on leaning towards like master's degree and PhD. But when it comes to bachelor's degree, it's pretty much the same. But then, of course, not as complicated as your senior, which is the master's degree and PhD applicants. So, for example, like in the beginning, how I mentioned about you have to know your major. It will be very challenging when you don't know what your major is. It's not really the case when it comes to bachelor's degree. In fact, I don't really care what you want to study, right? Because the beauty of like doing a bachelor's degree in the US is the universities actually allow you to be in an undecided major. And a lot of people, when I mentioned this, thought that, wait, if I declare as an undecided major, does that my chance of getting in will be less compared to other applicants who have decided their majors. No, no, it's not actually really the case, right? And so how exactly the universities are going to review your application is by holistic. They're doing it holistically, right? So it always, I'm not saying that essay is the only most important aspect of your application, but essay is actually play a really big role in this case, right? Regardless, you already know your major or not. And so when it comes to like essay writing for a bachelor's degree program, it's not so much about like, you know, like what I said earlier about, oh, you need to be able to know what is your final goal, who are you trying to help, and all that. But for the bachelor's degree type of essay, it's so much more about your personality, right? Not saying that you have to be a unique person. I still want you to be very originally you. And is it hard to actually come up with something that is, you know, because we're not like, you know, sometimes we're not get used to talking about ourselves, right? But it is hard. But then again, that's what we are here for. That's what Santika and I are here for, because we're going to brainstorm it together. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Think of it like counseling, almost, right? Like I'm trying to fix your problem here, trying to figure out what is it about you that is very not unique, but just like different, just like original, you know, compared to like your friends, for example. So, but yeah, the other requirements are pretty much the same. Like you still need to take TOEFL or IELTS. And then there's a standardized task that is called SAT or ACT. And then you also ask whether or not you should take TOEFL or IELTS. It will depend. What we know for sure is TOEFL is 100% will be accepted by the university because TOEFL is coming from the US. But IELTS is the British English. However, we actually see a lot of universities in the US where they also accept IELTS. So it always comes down to checking in, making sure that the university actually accepts IELTS if IELTS is the task that you want to take. It's very unnecessary for you to take both tasks. Again, it costs quite a lot, and so they are, you know, the type of English that they're asking is quite different. So you just basically choose which one you're more comfortable with. Don't hear from other people when they said just take IELTS because IELTS is easier, and then you heard it from someone else. You know what? TOEFL is actually easier. That's because for them it's easier. So for you to actually know whether or not you should take TOEFL or IELTS, it's only you who knows it. Are you comfortable with American English more than British English? Because, you know, like when it comes to those type of English, it can be different, right? So, and then also maybe like you maybe want to think about, you know, like with TOEFL, during the speaking part, you're basically going to talk in front of like a computer, like what I'm doing right now, which I don't like it at all. I would really like it when I be able to talk, you know, like in person. And that's something that you can actually get from IELTS. But different person, different preferences, right? There are a lot of people think that, oh my God, if I have to actually speak in front of like an English native, I will be super nervous, and I will be less nervous when I actually just like, you know, speaking in front of a computer where nobody like around me here heard what I'm saying. So then take TOEFL, right? So that's that. Yeah, I think I answered your question, hopefully. If not, again, please talk to us via Zoom. Of course, not today, because after the events, we are pretty much done for the day. But then we are always standing by from 1 until 9 p.m.
Okay, thanks, Vina. I hope that answers your question, Adima. And our next question is from Dian. So Dian asked about how about taking language standardized test in the middle of this current situation. Any advice, and you know, what are the language testing offices provide? Are the language offices provide the online test, and what do you think about that? So the funny thing is, Fina and me basically just did this standardized testing last week. We talked about TOEFL IBT, IELTS, GRE, GMAT last week in a very, just like this one session, whole thing about the standardized test. And I actually mentioned there that They're all kind of like going online, I think, except the IELTS, because you take the test from home. Even though I don't recommend you to take it, because basically you're taking the whole test at your own place. You need, a space that is very calm, and you need to be very, very focused. And I think they just make some adjustment to fit that for your own test at your home. So it's a bit different from what we know of TOEFL IBT, that is, widely available. I mean, the resources are widely available online, and you can find a lot of practice tests. Basically, these are like kind of new because of the current situation, so I don't recommend it if you are not in the rush. And for IELTS, I think they're postponing everything until when, I don't really know. You need to go to their website, British Council .id, British Council Foundation.id, if I'm not mistaken. Just Google them, IELTS, and you need to email them. If you have purchased a test, they will email you. Check your email. For other tests like GRE and GMAT, of course, they can, all of the tests these days are online, but it's whether you are taking it at home or in the center. So the center, of course, they are trying to, accommodate this whole changes and situation. They're allowing you to take the test at home online. But again, I don't recommend it because of the, a lot of things that can go wrong. But if you are in the rush, then you may want to see if you can take them online at your home. Okay, I hope that answers your question. If it's not that clear, you can email us and find us in Zoom. And next question, I will have to ask Fina from Alfat Ekaliani in Facebook. Is there any steps-by-steps on how to consult my plan to study in the US with EducationUSA advisors? For example, maybe what should I prepare first for the consultation session? So I think this is a lot of FAQ.
Thank you for the question. So this is something that I covered in the beginning. Exactly, like we get actually a lot of people, they're not sure where to really start with this one-on-one advising sessions because they're concerned about, oh, do I need to already have my first draft or something like that? But the answer is whichever you found yourself comfortable in sharing with us. So it can be something that maybe you already come up with the major that you want to do, or maybe you already start writing a first draft, but you don't have anybody to take a look at it yet, and you want to start having us, EducationUSA advisors, to take a look at it, then so technically what we're talking about tonight is I'm focusing on step 1, 2, 3, all the way until you submit all your application, and then we are waiting to hear from the university. But if I'm guessing maybe you're not joining us from the beginning. If that's the case, I would definitely recommend you to once this session will be uploaded on our platform like YouTube, maybe you want to watch a little bit in the beginning, because I pretty much cover the first few things that I'm going to ask you. So for example, I'm going to want to see your profile, meaning that where are you in the application process? Can we move on essay writing? Can we move on you taking the task, right? That's something that we're going to have a talk between you and me. Have a Zoom chat. And I love it because now, although we are working from home, but for me and for Santika, we are still, doing advising just as if we are in America. For example, tomorrow, we don't have any events, but at least I already have about 3-4 people lining up, planning to have a session. And then I would say, I can't promise that I can have all 4 people, at least in my shift. So we have this shift. So where Santika will basically do from 1 until 5, and then I will do 5 until 9. And then because some of our advisees, or at least the advisees that I'm currently working with, is already in the step 3, which is completing your applications, where the majority of them is in the essay writing process. It's very unlikely that I will be able to have all 4 people having a session with me tomorrow, because when it comes to essay session, it can go a very minimum. It's very rare that I actually have a 30-minute session. I know 30 minutes sounds like a lot, right? But oftentimes it can actually go all the way to like 1 hour, because then that's, again, I'm not just like correcting your content or your structure. It's all about like we brainstorm it together. So in this case, Alpha, I really recommend you. Let's talk via Zoom. Let's continue this session via Zoom. Maybe not tomorrow, unless you can actually, if you can check with Santika. You guys, you know what? You don't have to email us first. Kind of like, hey, Fina, are you available at 6? We are always have our Zoom ready, right? Once you go to the Zoom ID, which I believe Santika have already provided the ID, we're going to put you in the waiting room. So as long as there is no advising session currently going on, we're going to let you in. But if there is a session going on, we'll leave you a message on the chat box asking you to whether either you wait until the current session ends, or maybe you want to, like leave first and then try coming in again. So but then, it's also okay if you want to email us first, just maybe to kind of like check with us, hey, Fina, is there someone there? But again, you don't have to do it. You can just basically go to the Zoom ID, to the Zoom room.
Right.
So yeah, let's continue this talk on Zoom.
Yeah, thank you, Fina. So I just realized that if you are watching from other platform than Zoom, then you are not able to access the chat box, right? And that's where I was putting the Zoom meeting ID there. So right now I'm going to read you the Zoom meeting ID. So it's 276-124-396. Again, it's 276-124-396. So you just need to input this number, and then you're good to go. Whether it's Fina or me, depending on our shift, we will be able to talk to you face-to-face in Zoom meeting, just one-on-one advising online. And if you hesitate on going to Zoom directly, you want to email us first and see how it's going, just email us at jakarta.apamerica@educationusa.org. There, I think it's quite clear, and Fina have things to add there.
Yeah, I just want to add, because, sometimes I try to put myself on your shoes, you guys, I heard about this Education USA. I really want to meet with one of the advisors, but it can be like awkward in a way that like we've never met before, and then you just like go to Zoom and then there's like someone else there. So it's completely understandable if you are probably just like not sure, or maybe just like shy or anything like that. But it doesn't have to be like that, right? Like it's just like I promise you the session will be just like this. Just like as if very relaxed, very lively. It's not like, I'm gonna, there's no like wrong or right answer or anything like that when I question you stuff. So it's just like as if I'm trying to get to know a new person, right? So for those of you who are still kind of like not sure if I should like go in Zoom, give it a try. And it doesn't have to be long. Maybe you just want to say hi and maybe kind of like, asking like a very short question. Maybe you only have one question and then you want to do it via Zoom. By all means, we can have that that as well.
Right.
I believe we have last question here, which is perfect because we are almost at the end of the session here. Yeah.
Yeah, so the last question is from Bagus in Zoom. Is it important for fresh graduate to take some working experiences before starting to apply for the master program? Can I directly apply without? Apply directly with my past experience when I was in college, especially for me, an engineering student? There.
All right, that's a really good question. Should you have a work experience? It will depend on the programs, but oftentimes programs in the US, they don't really mention or require you to have some working experience unless you want to do MBA. MBA is quite clear that you technically you don't want and you can't actually apply for an MBA straight after bachelor's degree. You can still start to apply, but oftentimes they're not gonna, like your chance will be like very slim, because for MBA they are quite straightforward, where they are actually asking you to at least have about 1 or 2 or maybe 2 to 3 years of working experience. When it comes to engineering, oftentimes based on our advisees in the past, actually a number of students, they apply directly after they graduate, or maybe have like 1 year working experience. That would be more than enough. However, maybe when it comes to applying for the scholarship, so maybe if you're planning to apply for Fulbright or LPDP, which by the way, with Fulbright, you don't have to have like working experience either. But you will basically compete with other applicants who have working experience. So the quick way to answer this question is, from the university perspective, they are definitely like welcome you to apply straight after you graduate from your bachelor's. But maybe when it comes to applying for the scholarship, you may want to kind of like probably have at least maybe 1 year. I'm trying to think if I have an advisee in the past where they are granted with the scholarship like LPDP without working experience, but I can't think of any. At least they have like at least 1 hour working experience. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, Fina. That was very insightful. And I hope all of you enjoyed this session. And of course, if there are anything that you kind of like after this session finished, you're like, oh, I should have asked this thing, and you missed it. So don't worry, we will have another session, but maybe in other topics. But you can always reach us out, like we have mentioned, our email or the Zoom meeting ID. And yeah, I think that's it. And see you in our next event. Thank you, Fina. And I will hand it back to Maya.
All right, thank you, Fina and Santika, for a very inspiring and informative session. I think I learned a lot more about the steps to study in the United States now. See you again next time, Fina and Santika. Bye. All right, don't go anywhere, guys. I have the name of the question for our social media quiz today. The question was, true or false, Cornell University is suspending the SAT testing requirements for 2021 applicants? And the correct answer is true. Cornell University is the first Ivy League institution to suspend SAT requirements due to this pandemic. And our winner for today is Fifi Olfita. Congratulations, Fifi Olfita. Yay. Now, you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Don't worry. You can send your event proposal by visiting our website at www.atamerica.or.id. Click Create an Event and select Collaborate with us. All of the proposal coming to us will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. You can also subscribe to our newsletters for weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. All right, guys, I think that wraps up this episode. It has been fun, but unfortunately, we have to say goodbye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at IT America for event updates, fun content, and so much more. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you again in our next program. Bye!